Hello, my name is Mark Holbert, and together with my colleague Kola here, we're going to present the special video number, Catastrophic Humor Part 2. There's already a Part 1 that's been published. It's available on Caveat Mind, the YouTube channel. And the name of this video is Catastrophic Humor Part 2. And you can search for this by using the search term Mutare Fatum or Caveat Mind for the YouTube channel, or essentialconceptsinc.com for the website. The Essential Concepts video series will define and explain catastrophic thinking. This is a video to follow up to Part 1, which introduced many of the funniest examples of dark and indeed catastrophic humor used in this series. The second part of the series focuses on dark humor used in explaining policy formation, the ineptitude and follies of government in planning for catastrophes. Understand it's a very dark topic, and so I need humor, and these props are some of the examples of it to help illustrate the essential concepts. Between the catastrophic thinking outline available in the poster here, or the 12 tools of caveat listed here, you get a pretty good idea of what catastrophic thinking entails and the checklist you should use when you're making policies in the face of potential catastrophe. And the second to last one down there is plan for financing and logistics. And indeed, when I was going through this catastrophic humor, I found the classic example of logistical preparations for a catastrophe after it occurs. And ironically, this example comes from the communist Russia in World War II, a nation that is no stranger to catastrophes. We'll start off with example, the funniest town is Palomos Hot Springs in New Mexico, where the city council renamed it on a dare from a popular television show at the time, Truth or Consequences, in New Mexico. The funniest state, well, you'd think it'd be California, because California has turned into such a joke. With all the resources and beautiful climate and beautiful country they have, they've still managed to run it into the ground. But no, the funniest state is Nebraska, as we shall see in the presentations. The funniest government agency is the Arizona Coast Guard. I couldn't believe it when I first stumbled on them, but you know, there is the coast around Lake Mead, I suppose. Funniest government edict was do not let moose lick your car. That's from the city of Jasper, November 22nd, 2020. Funniest government tax guidance came from the Ukrainian tax office that said that captured Russian tanks don't have to be declared as income. Reported in Newsweek, March 17th, 2022. Funniest lie, I don't lie. Funniest lie widely believed to be true, statistics don't lie, with a runner-up of numbers don't lie. But of course, they do. Not on their face, you know, they're neutral on their face, but the way people use them. Funniest government press release, tops all others I've ever seen. CDC says the top global health story of 2020 was mosquitoes. It was on the website for the Center for Global Health Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, December 21st, 2020 is where my source. Funniest government lie, we're from the government and we're here to help you. Funniest rational lie. Now, government is a rich source of rationalizations or rational lies. The movement began in the 1995 to adopt a constitutional amendment to balance the budget, and selfish interest groups rose up to defeat that. At that time, the national debt was less than $5 trillion. Today, it's over $35 trillion. and I quote, this Center on Budget and Policy Priorities issued a missive entitled Constitutional Balanced Budget Amendment poses serious risks. See, they're opposed to it. The fact that states must balance their budgets every year means that the federal government is the last bastion of deficit spending and must be protected, so they help beat it. Dark humor. The funniest date of death is September 11th, 1752. Look it up. September 11th, 1752. The edict nobody was going to die on that day. Darker, funniest pandemic headline: Denmark wrestles with the zombie mink apocalypse, which I never believed I would see those words in a phrase. Zombie mink apocalypse. But November 27, 2020, nationalnews.com came out with an article on that. Then the darkest example of humor I have is the funniest unexplained coincidence, which happened during the pandemic of 2020 when 3 Russian doctors accidentally fell out of multi-story windows from their hospitals in a 2-week span during the 2020 pandemic, as reported by CNN on May 4th, 2020. Bonus, catastrophically dark, funniest country has to be Russia. The headline, Russia's low virus death toll still raises questions in the West. Quote from ABC News on June 14, 2020. The way Russia counts fatalities during the 2020 virus pandemic could be one reason why its official death toll of 6,948 is far below many other countries. Now, I can't say the word. I'm afraid to say it. I look to other content creators and I find that some words, like the name of the virus in 2020, will trigger restrictive or cancellation by the internet. So I can't say it. It's the 2020 virus is all I can say. I look to like Wonder Hussy, who called it the Cocoa Puffs. Well, it wasn't the Cocoa Puffs, but it was the virus that swept the world in 2020. But now back to Russia. Obviously, the way Russia counted their 2020 fatalities was questionable, what with doctors falling out of windows. Russian history can be summarized in 4 words, and then it got worse. Well, that's 5. The origins of the Black Death came from Russia, so they had a good start on being the most catastrophic country in the world. Then there was the assassination of Rasputin. Rasputin was originally poisoned by arsenic from the royal court. Of course, they used arsenic, whose best used by date had long expired. Then they shot him, and that didn't kill him. So then they rolled him up in a blanket and beat him, and that didn't kill him, or a rug. And then they threw him in the freezing river and let him drown. Quite a example of how hardy those people are. Russia is catastrophically cursed for anyone that sets foot on its territory. It's not just for the Russians. The French found out in 1812, Napoleon. The Germans found out when they invaded in 1940, and they all died, 80% of them. The funniest photograph comes from Russia. Here's a picture of Nikolai Yezhov, who is the head of their Russian secret police with his buddies Stalin and Molotov. Oh, wait a minute, he's not in that picture. There he is. There he was in the picture in 1937, and then they photoshopped it in 1940 when they had him killed. The origins of cancel culture. Russia is a catastrophist's go-to country. Catastrophic thinking is about meeting the challenge of any catastrophe. And of course, war is one. One key in responding to catastrophes is logistics. There it is, number 11. Plan for financing and logistics. The 12 tools of catastrophic assumptions, values, expectations, and analysis and thinking. For a catastrophic example of logistics, consider the war of 2022 in Ukraine. Social media commentary flooded it with how dumb and laughable the Russia's poor performance in Ukraine was and still is. And that was, they had traffic jams which made their supply lines easy targets. However, Russia has had great logistics in the past, and I use as an example the Russian evacuation of 1941, which was and is the single best exercise in catastrophic thinking and logistical response to a catastrophe. The success was measured by the repulse of the German invasion, largely using tanks, guns, ammunition, and other military essentials produced in the Urals and Siberia. Indeed, 80% of the German soldiers killed in World War II were killed by the Russians. The Russian evacuation of 1941 was brought about by orders of the communists in the first days of World War II in the German invasion of Russia. Ahead of the advancing Germans, on rickety railroads, Russia moved 1,523 industries and 10 million workers and their families way past Moscow into the Ural Mountains and then Siberia. By the spring of 1942, industrial production had resumed. And like I say, that's an incredible story. Sources worth reading. First one is Comrades, We Are Transporting the Whole Factory. That's from mhistory.net. And then there's some other resources there, primarily from our CIA headquarters, but also from the internet. And I recommend those to you. They'll be in the appendix at the end of this video. And they really showed us up. You think Russia and Ukraine is bad? Think about the United States. Could the United States even today replicate the thinking, planning, and execution on a scale like the Russians in 1941? Imagine a crisis where we had to move the strategically critical small arms factories and workers of Massachusetts and Connecticut to Nebraska, which is the American Siberia. Could we do it that quickly, even in peacetime? The Essential Concepts video series will explore catastrophic thinking and hopefully empower more of our leaders to think catastrophically, using assumptions, values, and expectations that must change in our analysis and thinking in times of catastrophe. There are many videos in this series covering the mental obstacles that hinder and prevent clear thinking in formulating crisis policies and planning efficient and effective responses. And a number of them are under this category, Think Clearly, on the Catastrophic Thinking poster. Think Clearly. The website, essentialconceptsinc.com, is under construction. Feedback is welcome. Hopefully it will offer annotated transcripts and PowerPoint presentations for sale. If there's enough demand, merchandise like these posters with brand name logos could be produced and sold. I'm a retiree on a fixed income. I need to make bucks so I can live tomorrow. I need to be, as I said in part 1 of Catastrophic Humor, I need to be essential. Meanwhile, support my efforts to become essential by liking, subscribing, comment, sharing, and I thank you for that. Please share. I have certain intellectual property protections like trademark, caveat, copyright, but I want you to share, just give credit. And then finally, I'll end every video with a prayer.